guys to today's 7 on Sunday. Okay, so today we're actually going to be talking about our favourite sequels, probably of all time, even though I have many sequels that I've enjoyed. And what's hard about this is it doesn't have to just be book 2, it could be book 5, it could be book 7, it could be book 3. It just has to be a sequel to the first book. And I feel like this could even count for prequel series, so a first book and a prequel could also work. I haven't done that, I've only done like pure sequels, but these are sequels that I absolutely love and in most cases enjoyed more than the first book. But there is also the issue of, like, especially with trilogies, this happens sometimes and the opposite also happens, where you can have a really good second book and the first book can be promising but just not that great, and then the third book just shits on it. So like you always will have that second book in your mind, but it also can go the opposite way where you have the second book slump where the 1 and 3 are amazing and then it just goes. So I'm excited. These are definitely some of my favorites, but I have many favorites, but I feel like these are really up there and I'm excited for this topic. It doesn't even need to be said that this is one of the best books of all time, and that's just in general. We can all agree that ACOTAR is just like something we don't want to talk about as much anymore. Honestly, the last 150 pages are all that matters. When Rhysand walks on the scene, that is when the story starts for me. I used to never be this person, especially when this book hadn't come out yet, and I was like, Rhysand sucks, and now I'm like, I love him. But this book is so amazing, and not just for Feyre's development, because that is amazing as well. She does go through some extensive healing in this book, and that was just beautiful to read, but it's the way that Rhysand gets redeemed, the way we get introduced to the inner circle and the magic systems, and just how much we learn, and just, it's so visually appealing, and it's a book, which is intense to even think about, but the way that everything is described and the world is made, it's just so beautiful, and it is one of my favourite romances. Like, Rhys and Feyre have such a beautiful relationship in just this book, and I think we all agree that it is a comfort read. I've reread it and I would always love to reread it again. I'm just really busy at the moment, but it's one of the best sequels and nothing's gonna change my mind. Next, I want to talk about Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman, and honestly, this is a case where the first book was actually really good, second book was freaking peak, and third book, not as good. Like, I feel like I'm one of the few people that actually didn't mind the toll, but there are so many things they could have done with the storyline and they went in different directions, and there was a lot of things that they never tied up, which is really annoying as well. But the reason I enjoy Thunderhead is the way that it expands on the narrative by introducing characters that we don't really understand at first, and then when it starts to make sense, it's done really well. And this ending is always going to be one of the freaking most stressful times, and I'm so mad that I forgot about this for books with the biggest plot twist or endings and cliffhangers, because this killed me. I was reading this and everything was fucking happening and I was stressed and I forgot about it. It's like I was so stressed that I had to wipe it from my mind, because like reading it, I just didn't know where it was gonna go, and just, oh, like, and then waiting for the toll and then having it be disappointing was a killer. But I just think this is a great story, and as I said, it expands on so much and it's just so well written. Again, Aurora Burning by Amy Coffin and Jay Kristoff, same situation. First book I wasn't really a big fan of, second book really became its own thing, because at the time that I read Aurora Burning, I read another book that was very similar and I was like, Jesus. And then Illuminae was also very similar vibes as well. But coming into this book, the adventures were just so unique and so much fun, and I really enjoyed it. And then again, that was a really good cliffhanger. And then coming into book 3, it just was not it. I'm still so mad, okay? Like, I enjoyed it, but I expected way more, and they had so many dumbass end of trilogy tropes in it that I was just like, ugh! Like, I needed more. But this sequel is always going to be important to me, and it did make me really appreciate a lot of stuff, even though there's stuff that happens with Aurora. Like, I don't like Aurora. She was okay in the first book, and then in this book she shits me, and then in the next book she shits me more. But I feel like everything else with other characters was done just to perfection. And I just know that this was a good sequel because I was hanging for the next book. That's what you want with a sequel. You want to just be like, oh my god, I'm so excited. Getting into a controversial sequel, but how do people hate Tower of Dawn by Sarah J Maas. Like, I understand that people hate Cale, but I loved him, okay? And I know that he did some shady shit, and in my second reread, I understood it a lot more. But how can you say that you can just skip this book and the story will still make sense? This is one of the best stories I've ever read, and like, if you hate Cale, read it for Irene, because she is an amazing character. I'm so glad that we finally got to see her again, because she was in one of the short stories for Assassin's Blade, and then she gets a whole novel here. But everything they do in this story is a key to getting through the next book. It's stuff that we need to happen. This is something that people need to read. And yes, I could have put Queen of Shadows or Empire of Storms on this list for being amazing sequels, but this is the one that's the most important. I feel it needs to be spoken about because it is great. It is amazing, it's great, and more people need to read it. And I am definitely happy that I got this story because I was able to let go of a lot of my emotions surrounding Cale and Selena. It was just so good. Like, every time I hear people talking shit about it, I am so mad about it. Next, I want to talk about Tools of Engagement by Tessa Bailey. So this is the third book in the Fixer Up trilogy. So technically, like, does a last book count? Because it's still a sequel. I still think it counts. So I really enjoyed Fixer Up and Lover or Loser, but I just couldn't get past how dominating Travis and Dom were, because, like, this is obviously how Tessa Bailey writes. I mean, it's the same and It Happened One Summer. He's also dominating. It's how she writes her men. And it's not what I like to see from men. I don't want them telling me what to do. I don't want them to be all up in my fucking grill. They can just calm the heck down and just treat me like an equal and not like a thing. And it's hard to read, even though I love these stories. But Wes is like that, but not as much. So I loved him way more. I loved his story. I love the way that he looks after his niece because his sister is going through a lot of issues, so he's basically become a caregiver at 23. And I love Bethany because she's such a perfectionist, and then she decides that she's going to go against her brother in building houses, and they just make a really good unit. They make a really good team, and I appreciated their story because they both bring out the best in each other. And it's not about being dominating, and again, he's got that vibe, but I feel like she just wrote him to be less because he's younger. I don't know, but I just know that I really appreciated this book, and it's definitely my favorite out of the trilogy. Next, I have to talk about Scarlet from the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer, and this may be tweaked a little bit because I haven't read Winter yet, but I feel like I'm always gonna love this story because Wolf is just the best character. I love him so much. He's such an innocent little mind, even though he kills people, but like, he doesn't know how things in the real world work, and he has to learn how to do things. Like, he's never had a tomato before, and then he loves eating tomato. I just love him. And Scarlet's a great character as well, but definitely out of all the romances, this is my favorite. And I am planning to reread this book next month with Kat from Brews and Review. We've been talking about it for a couple of months, and it's my bad because I'm a really slow reader, and then readathons keep happening, and then I keep pushing it back by another month, so I'm adamant. I'm gonna make it happen. Once Magical Readathon's over, I'm gonna pick it up and I'm gonna enjoy it, and I hope it still remains my favorite. But I just loved the story so much, but there is so many details that I've forgotten about it, and I did my reread of Cinder like 3 years ago, so I'm going great. I can't reread Cinder again though, because it's got a trope that I find irritating to make the story really obvious because you know where it's gonna go, and I just don't think I could sit through that again. But I just know for the romance, it's amazing, and it just really does push the story along really well, and Cress is still a good sequel as well. And as I said, I haven't read anything else, so fingers crossed I keep the reread going and I actually get through things. And of course I have to add another contemporary, but that is Actuaries by Eve Brown. I find with this trilogy, it goes in an upward incline, okay? But honestly, I could put Dani Brown on this list too, because both of them I love so much, but I just think personally I saw myself more in Eve than in Dani. And just Chloe's story just irritated me. Like, I just wasn't really here for their relationship and the way that they were. And then I was hesitant to pick up the rest of the trilogy, but then like Danica and Zaf were spot on. And then even Jacob, like, it's so cute. But I just love her so much, like her fear of failure and disappointment. I feel that, not that I don't try things, like I do want to try things, but I don't even know what I want to do in my life. And I feel like it causes me very much anxiety when I have to think about it, because like I'm 24 and I still work at a supermarket, and I know there's nothing bad about it, but I thought I would have been doing something more by now, and now I'm like, am I wasting my life away? Am I gonna get old soon? Like, these anxieties, like I should not be talking about this because then I'm gonna stress myself out, but I have all these anxieties about things that I want to do in my life. And I do think one of the main things I really want to do is travel, so I'm very excited that things are starting to open up again. Like, even doing the trip to Melbourne was such an excitement for me because I'm getting out there, I'm doing things, and I actually want to go to Brisbane at some point this year to also travel. Like, I'm doing these trips around Australia as small things, and then hopefully I'm going to start going into bigger trips and to be able to do more things, but I can't travel as a job. I mean, I probably could, but it's not like I'm going to be here on my YouTube channel being like, I'm going to be like the next travel vlogger, because I love vlogging, but it's more for myself. And I do have a travel channel if you want to check out my vlogs, you know, just product placement. The link is down below if you guys ever want to join. I've only got 6 subscribers and I think all of them are friends and family. But I just feel so in kind with Eve. Like, she goes through struggles, she goes through failures, and she goes through moments where you just think she isn't enough. And I just appreciated it so much. And just Jacob is such an angry ball of fluff. I love him so much. Like, it's such a good story. And I just recommend this trilogy to anyone, and it makes me so excited when I see people reading Danny or reading Eve, even reading Chloe, even though people like that book more than I do, but it's such a good trilogy, and I'm still anxiously waiting for news on when her new trilogy is going to start, because I'm so keen. You know, part of me knows that this was really hard to pick, but I also know that I'll always read first books and it takes me forever to get to sequels. So part of me is shocked that I even had enough books for this video, because damn, I really need to catch up with things, but as you know, there's a gazillion books here. I will keep mentioning it. I gotta hold myself accountable. It's either try and read or try and unhaul, but I can't read quick enough anymore. I need to stop getting into my worries. I'm getting the anxiety now. But rest, these books are amazing. If you haven't picked up any of them, please do it and tell me about how you feel, because they're great. Well, so guys, that is all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and as I said, please tell me if you've read any of these and what you think about them, or other sequels that you think I should pick up, because I'm a slack. But thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!